Black lights and booze burn when I record for Watts. And every black like Troy Davis who never had a fair shot. All black everything, everything black. Culture over everything, y'all, we taking it back. Black.
Criticism at Duke University after the U.S. Supreme Court put an end to affirmative action in higher education. The university is ending a scholarship for black students. The Reginaldo Howard Memorial Scholarship, established back in 1979, is awarded to top applicants of African descent to cover full tuition, room, and board. Duke University says it'll now partner with the Mary Lou Williams Center for Black Culture to establish the Reginaldo Howard Leadership Program. The new program will be open to all undergraduates.
Time for some Blackurate news, and boy, oh boy, they're just taking this DEI thing and running with it. Now it's Duke University. Now, let me just tell you why I'm so irritated by this too, because it's reaching and they're just letting it be reaching. Like, now we're going to scholarship programs. In my opinion, it is not aligned with the law that was actually ruled on by the Supreme Court. They're just letting it go because this is where they want it to go.
This program, it gave roughly 15 to 20 recipients annually. Black individuals have been disadvantaged from a property perspective and educational perspective, and now this is happening.
So today we're talking about the Reginaldo Howard Scholarship and Duke's discontinuation of it and how it's being turned into a leadership program open to all students. So I think we should start by introducing ourselves. My name's Nina. I'm a freshman from Williamsburg, Virginia, and I'm undecided.
My name's Destiny. I'm a junior from South Carolina, and I'm majoring in African and African American Studies and minoring in political science and sociology.
My name's Aaliyah Tucker. I'm a sophomore from South Carolina. I'm majoring in chemistry with a minor in African American Studies as well as medical sociology.
I'm Ariana. I'm a sophomore. I'm double majoring in political science and economics, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
I'm Eliana. I'm a senior majoring in political science, minoring in Spanish, and I'm from Texas.
I think we can start by talking about who Reggie Howard was and what the scholarship means to his legacy.
Reginaldo Howard was, he would have been class of 1978, but unfortunately he died in a car crash coming back from his home in South Carolina in 1976. So as a sophomore, the scholarship was founded in honor of him because he was also the first African-American president of the Associated Students at Duke, which was basically the organization that predated Duke Student Government, which we know now by that name. So he was a political science major. He had a really strong platform. He was known very widely across campus. And he had a promising future, and unfortunately, it was cut short. Eliana, you want to speak some more about
Reggie
him?
was really impactful for his short time at Duke. He proposed a lot of really good measures for campus, including better lighting on West, so people have safer travels at night, as well as 24/7 library hours during reading periods. So he had a really big impact for his short time. The scholarship was made in his honor after he passed away.
Yeah, I also think it's important because his platform also, even though it has like broad ideas and plans to better the Duke community as a whole, he also had a focus on like the arts and Black student success here at Duke. And so I think with the Reggie Scholarship, with how it focused on students who had that determination for leadership and for Black excellence and social justice here at Duke, that was a pretty direct connection to his legacy and what he would have wanted.
Yeah, because, he didn't get elected until a few years after the Allen Building takeover,
Right.
and I think 15 years since the first few students were admitted to the school. Don't quote me on that. But he was, very important to his class. People had really high expectations for his for his office. So it was really unfortunate that he passed away. But originally, the scholarship in memorial to him was only for about 10 students and covered maybe $1,000 a year for every 4 years. It later expanded to about 33% of tuition in the 70s, and then today, 100% financial contribution for all 4 years for undergraduate students who get chosen for that scholarship.
Yeah, so today it's been, well, previous to this decision, it has been like a very foundational merit scholarship for Black students to be able to help them afford to come to Duke, because we know it is very expensive, very expensive. And so having that support was definitely helpful. I mean, to be a Black, it's already hard being a Black student at campus, so having that support, you know,
Yeah, because like, what's the population now? Like 7%.
literally.
We need all the help we can get. Yeah.
Okay, so what were your guys' initial reactions to hearing about it? Because I found out on like an Instagram story somebody reposted.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'll say that, like, even though I personally am not on a merit scholarship, I know people who are. And because Duke's tuition is absurdly expensive, no matter how much money your family makes, like, that is a absurd amount of money. And so I know when I got into Duke, like, okay, it's been my dream school for a while. My parents were happy. The first thing my dad was like, okay, but how much did they offer you? And so, like, you wait 2+ weeks, I believe, to, like, get the financial aid package. And then when it came in and, like, my family could afford, they're like, okay, now we can, like, celebrate. Now we can, like, praise you for your success. Like, even though it was good in the first place, it's like, I wasn't going to come here without financial aid. And so I think that's a lot of, like, that's the case for most of the students on these merit scholarships, no matter how much money your family makes. Like, that is a lot of money. About $400,000 to send your kid to college is a lot for most people.
Yeah, I thought it was nuts. It wasn't surprising. I mean, Duke has already kind of been moving into the position with the rest of the country, other public universities, other private universities, and getting rid of like very important integral DEI standards and measures. So when I heard about it, of course, I was shocked. I was angered. I mean, this is extremely important for Black students to be able to afford the opportunities that a lot of students can get otherwise, just from their circumstances. So I was angry. I was upset. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised.
Yeah, I want to say I was kind of in the same boat. I saw it on social media and I was kind of like, that doesn't really make sense. But then I thought about affirmative action and kind of like the message we were getting after it. It didn't really seem like Duke was like, oh, we're holding the same positions as we were before. It's kind of like, well, we'll just shift to the measures that we need to. And even like deep diving into what the scholarship is going to look like in the future, a lot of that is like taking away the Black aspect of the scholarship. It's like, oh, everyone can apply. Everyone is able to be able to get the full ride. And I think it's really important to consider like what that means in the future, because there's so many mostly Black spaces on campus where Black students are able to commune. And I think being able to have that community is kind of what drew me to Duke. So it's like, are we not gonna be able to have those spaces because Duke feels like we might get sued or like something like that because of the fact that like they're concerned about affirmative action and like lawsuits and things like that.
Yeah, I'd say I want to echo all of your sentiments, of course. It was definitely like shocking. I heard about it, I think, first from one of my friends, and then I saw it actually on Twitter when I saw, what's his name? I think it's Phil Lewis. He's like like the Black,
premier Black Twitter reporter.
I'm going to Phil Lewis to figure out what's going on. And so once I saw his tweet about it, I was like, oh, this is definitely going to get, Duke is going to get a lot more attention than I think they would have expected from, you know, basically gutting this scholarship program for Black students. And so, yeah, it was shocking, but not surprising at all, because, I mean, Duke just has a precedent of defending the wrong people or not defending the right people, not supporting, you know, its marginalized communities. So unfortunately, it wasn't surprising at all.
Yeah, you know, we get those emails quick in our inbox, especially after the affirmative action case. I remember reading through to our beloved Blue Devil community, talking about all the promises to continue to create spaces for Black students and other marginalized communities on campus. But then seeing this, it's like, okay, you're just saying stuff now. We just saying whatever.
It's like that gap between like saying something in principle, like saying you're going to do this in principle, but it's not being shown in practice. Like you're just consistently being neglectful.
Yeah, just saying things to say it.
Right,
at this
just
point.
words.
Yeah.
So what do we think this means for the future of Black programs at Duke, like BSAI, which is Black Students Alliance Invitational?
Yeah, so for people who don't know, Black Student Alliance Invitational is a program for potential freshmen at Duke to come in and kind of experience what it's like being a Black Duke student. It was a really important program. It's one that students fought for back in the 70s, late 60s. So it's a really important recruitment effort just for students to be able to like, understand the resources that they have available to them as Black students, get the experience, live in a dorm even, and just kind of get the feel of the Duke community before they make their decision to come.
I would say for me personally, like when I first found out I got into Duke, it was through like a BSAI invitation, like email for the class of 2026. And even though like BSAI that year was virtual, it was comforting knowing that I still had a community that I would have, like if I were to choose to go to Duke. And I think that's something that I like didn't see in like the other schools that I was applying to and I got into. So I think that was like a huge green flag for why I chose to come here. And so I'm scared for the future of potential Black Duke students who may not have this opportunity. So community and like knowing who you'll have is like a big part of choosing where you want to go, no matter how good the academics is. So I'm terrified.
Yeah. Just to even piggyback off of that, I remember when I got my acceptance letter and again, a BSAI invitational. I know for my Blue Devils days, we had a food truck come and it was like a Haitian food truck, which, and a lot of like Black students were there and I got to like meet a whole bunch of other students. And I think being able to do that, I felt like I had already developed a little bit of community at Duke. And I think that was so important in like me choosing my college. And I think future students potentially not being able to have that because like, say for instance, that program was transitioned to, all students can apply and like be able to come to campus and stuff like that. What does that mean for number one, like the Black community at Duke, which I feel like is very tight-knit and close because of programs like that? And also, what does that look like for just like recruit, like our future classes? Like, are Black students gonna wanna come to Duke because like they're not feeling community or like things like that? I think is super important, so yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think even before this decision, I've always been like a little nervous around BSAI time, especially from the programming perspective, like being a Black leader at Duke, who's like, when you're like leading, we start planning BSAI like months before it happens. And so I remember my freshman year, we had went through all of the planning and Duke just canceled it last minute for that class. And we had already established all these relationships with businesses. We had events planned and we just had to cut all of that. So normally around BSAI time, it's always just like this on edge, like, is it good? Like making sure it's gonna go through, making sure nothing's gonna happen from the administrative side to, I don't know, have it canceled last minute for some reason. So I hope it's not canceled or like done away with in the future, but it is like this thought in the back of your mind, like, is Duke trying to like wean this program out?
Yeah, and I can speak definitely as a senior who didn't have a BSAI. I didn't know what the Black community was like at Duke before I got here. And it was really hard for me to find that community at first. Well, granted, COVID, there was a lot of restrictions, not a lot of FaceTime with people, but I didn't know the Black faculty that we had. I didn't know who was around me. I was just kind of lost. So for a few years of my Duke experience, I really had to work to find Black community here at Duke. And BSAI offers that opportunity before you get to campus. So it would really be a loss for potential freshmen to come to campus and not be able to cultivate those relationships early. And And I just hate that, especially now with how affirmative action has been decimated and like programs at Duke are slowly being taken away. I would hate for that to be a reason for BSAI to just be completely done with.
Yeah, and like I'm a freshman, so I went to BSAI last year. And like being a Black student, it's really important that you know what the Black community is going to be like at your university, especially at a PWI like Duke. And so like I was able to find that community and see it through BSAI. And so for like the new classes and upcoming who aren't going to have that, it's like really scary. And like not just for Black students, but there's other programs for like Latinx and like Native Americans that are similar. And so we don't know the future for those either. So.
Yeah, it's a scary time for sure. I hate to be leaving in these conditions because I know what those programs can do. I benefited from a lot of like really intentional programming while being here at Duke, and to know that students will go through Duke without that kind of support it's a bummer.
Okay, so we're kind of going to transition a little bit and get a more administrative side or perspective of the Reginaldo Scholarship and what it's going to look like moving forward. So right now we have Dr. Candace Watts-Smith with us. And Nina, would you like to?
So, Dr. Smith, if you want to give a brief introduction of yourself.
Sure. I'm the Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education and also Professor of Political Science at Duke. I'm a Duke alumna 3 times over, and when I'm in the classroom, I teach about race and politics in the American political landscape.
Yeah, so we already kind of have a little bit of discussion about like what's going on with the Reginaldo Howard Scholarship, now leadership program. We've been kind of talking it from the perspective of students who are learning this through social media and through Chronicle, but I think we're hoping to get a little bit more insight about like administratively, like what's going on.
Well, I guess maybe I can start by talking about what exactly the transition means. So currently, the Reggie Scholarship is a need-blind scholarship that is awarded to students before they accept coming to Duke. And if they accept coming to Duke and they accept the scholarship, then they come, and they get enrichment funding, tuition and fees, so on and so forth. There are a number of practical reasons at the very least to shift from a need-blind scholarship to a needs-based financial aid set of grants that can go to students who embody the Reggie Howard legacy, and who are in need of financial aid. So where there are some students who would say, I was recruited because of the scholarship, at a practical level, we currently, on this day, April 23rd, would have traditionally begun to have finalists to come to campus, to be considered for the Reggie. We do not know the race of the current admitted students at Duke University. So that process is not available to us right now. And so then the thought is, how do we move forward? How do we move forward in a situation where we can't match the scholarship up front to the students that we need? And knowing that financial aid is such an important component for getting students here, that we can bolster the financial aid component. And then finally, financial aid is very much something kind of in the background, right? You come to Duke, you get a financial aid packet, and it could say, you have a scholarship, people who are interested in politics, people who are from South Carolina, and also this Reggie Howard leadership funding. That's very quiet. For me, that is, it's good that the funds will go to students who should get it, but then what about the legacy component? And the legacy component is to be very public about the fact that we had, that Reggie Howard came to school here, that he was a very bright light to Duke. And so how do we think about making sure that we have that legacy and also extend the tent of that legacy to a larger number of Black students through the leadership program?
So with this new leadership program, and I saw that there's going to be a connection with the Mary Lou Williams Center for Black Culture. So how does that new connection fit in, even though the leadership program is now open to all students regardless of race?
So we focused and partnered with the Mary Lou Williams Center as a strategic effort to make sure that we can identify students who embody Reggie Howard's legacy. We cannot at Duke University really offer anything on the basis of race. And so we know that. But what we can do is we can be creative with the situation that we're in to make sure that students who care about Black communities, who care about Black communities outside of Duke, inside Duke, who are leaders in the space, are able to directly benefit from the leadership program.
So just so I'm on track with everything that you just said, because changes in admissions, which cannot identify the race of a student applying to Duke, and because the Reggie Howard Scholarship was based on those previous admission practices, now that those admission practices are taken away, the Reggie Howard Scholarship needs to find a different avenue to getting to those students. So I guess I am trying to ask, what, I'm really trying to think about how I say this, but I guess what could that mean for other initiatives that are targeted for marginalized students? Because although we don't want to recognize race in admissions practices, as we've discussed in class, race has major implications on a student's background, a student's outcome, and the opportunities or lack thereof that they have prior to coming to Duke. So I guess what is Duke doing creatively to make sure that these populations are still cared for?
Yeah, so I hope, it's my goal and intention. I was talking to one of your classmates beforehand to say that I like to believe that by being at me being at the table, that the strategy that we're using will do the thing that we both care about. There are attacks on all sorts of programs for folks of color, for women, and it is now time to be on, like, it's prime time to think about how we strategically address structural inequalities in a climate that would have us do less.
Yeah.
So we do not disagree on this, and we have, from what I can see, the same worry about this. I take it to be my job to do the worrying and then do the figuring out of how do we get around the barriers so that students who need resources get them.
On to echo more of this conversation, what is the admissions process gonna be like now, given that when I applied, two out of the three essay questions we had were, how did you overcome diversity? How does that play a role in like who you are and what you can bring to this campus? I feel like Duke has embodied its success in diversifying the campus. So how are students going to be able to express themselves? Because I think that being Black and growing and having my experiences that I had were a part of my personal statement and what I chose to express to colleges when applying. So how is that going to change or impact the...
I'm really glad that you asked that question, because that is something that, one, Justice Jackson really made an effort to say that students can talk about those things, that they should talk about their identities, their experiences, where they're coming from. And I'm actually worried that a lot of students did not get that PSA and that they will not talk about those things in their essays, even though they're allowed to. Some early data, not from Duke, but just some kind of research that I've looked at, that the proportion of students you can, in previous years, there are students, you can Black, white, Latino, Asian American, Native American, so on and so forth. Or you can say like, prefer not to answer. And I've seen data that shows that there are an increased number of students who are putting prefer not to answer. A large proportion of students are doing that. And I suspect, though I'll have to wait until this year's admission cycle closes, is if Black students were more likely to prefer not to respond because they didn't know that, that they could do that. What happens is that there's data collected about demographics, and the racial demographic is then separated from the admissions essays and all of that goes to the admissions file. Okay, why am I saying all of this, and why do I think your question is a good one? Is because I actually hope that this moment in time, this conversation, allows us to tell other Black students that they are allowed to talk about that in their admissions essays. They are allowed to do that. That there is a lot of messaging that you shouldn't or you can't, and it's not true. What it is that admissions is not allowed to account for race. That admissions is not allowed to look at the check boxes and see that you wrote that instead they're supposed to give a holistic account, which is what they were doing anyway, right? That race was always one of 15, 17 criteria that they, domains that they looked at anyway. Okay. I'm nervous that that there weren't enough students who talked about that and could tell us the full breadth of their experience. It is unknown what is going to happen this year. What we have to do is depend upon people to really think hard about and read the essays in a new light and more thoroughly than ever before. But we still know that there are going to be students who didn't even give us a hint of their racial or ethnic background out of fear that somehow that they would be eliminated. Did that answer your question? I'm sorry, that was a long one, but I guess I'm nervous about what this new admission situation is going to mean for Duke in the short term. In the long term, what we need to do and what folks are doing is being really intentional about recruiting the best students in perhaps places that they hadn't traditionally done but need to do. That there's a wider recruitment effort to make sure that students who should come to Duke apply to Duke. Yeah.
Okay, so can I ask for people who aren't really sure about what's going to happen to the scholarship, or students who have it now, what is the future for Reggie Scholarship students now?
Same, that they were given a guarantee and a promise, and they will continue to have that guarantee and promise.
Can I ask what you think the future of diversity at Duke is going to look like now?
Yeah. My sense is that there is an idea that the Reggie transition is a move away from diversity, and it's not. I would say that there are a number of people who are thinking about these questions about admissions, about making sure that students can access and afford Duke, that when students get here, that they have all of the things that they need. We know that you all's time here at Duke extends not just from August to May, but from June, July, August, right, that you all want to do internships, sometimes unpaid or underpaid, that you want to do research, that you want to make connections. It's our responsibility to make sure that those things are covered too, because now that's part of your education. And we know, right, as you pointed out, that there are some people who are able to afford unpaid internships and can fly to wherever and do whatever they want. And that they get to add to their resume. We are cognizant of the ways that there are students who are wealthy, and we know that wealth and race are, very tightly linked. But that if we see that a student is excellent and gets admission to Duke, that they should be able to chart a path for themselves that is not constrained by finances. So why am I saying this? Both that we care about the racial and ethnic diversity of our students, we care about the socioeconomic diversity of our students, we care about the talent, we care about, and I want to make sure that I myself have written about how we often talk about diversity as like, you like flip-flops and you like Crocs. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I know that the kind of the structurally contingent identities that people have, we care about those, and we want to make sure that we have students who can excel at Duke, no matter their background.
Okay, so I think on behalf of all of us, we want to say thank you to Dr. Smith for joining us here today. I think it's much needed perspective. We've of course had our conversations as Black students, but it's always refreshing to hear it from a Black faculty, a Black administrator as well. I think our conversation here was pretty enriching, very informative, and moving forward, I think the real core, the real basis of Black Duke, I think we're a very strong community, and whether we're a direct recipient of, whether we're a Reggie Scholar, whether we're, a future member of the Reggie Leadership Program, I think at the core, as long as we're honoring Reginald Howard's legacy of being Black leaders, not just here on this campus, but in the Durham community or in wherever we may go, I think that's really like the core basis of what we should embody and what we should remember as Black Duke students. So thank you.
Black boy shorts on my ass, like teachers stay on short. Black boys in class, so they grow to lead the masses. Black sunglasses, cause my future bright molasses. Blackberry, write my rhymes in them every night, they scary. Black scarves, represent scars and nooses that they hung us by, but now they hanging on my word, deuces. Yo, too black to not be a fan of Michael Jack. Word, the Bible colors all black, just like my Scully cap, cause blacks be on my mind. All black, you know. All black in the name of all my Black heroes. All black everything. All black polos. All black medallions, yeah. All black, you know, say. All black